And for reference, I could just come down here and use that same color right now and paint on the bottom here.
Juliet, cuidado.
And I'll let that dry for a minute. Okay, now I'm going to grab some yellow and I'm going to get in those those nice wildflowers. I'm going to just dot around here. Just to remind me to keep that space open for the flowers. I'm going to go around and I'm going to paint some grass. Some nice bright green, sap green, and some lemon yellow. And it looks like a mess now, but it'll really come together later. And I'm going to let that dry for a minute. Okay, now I'm going to come in and I'm going to paint some of these rocks. And the rocks are pretty light. It's more of a gray color. So whenever I'm mixing gray, I like to take some brown and some blue. Now most of these are pretty light. So there's my kind of bluish green gray. I'm going to skip around where the sun is hitting the top of the rocks. I'm going to leave a lot of that white from the paper. And the falls from the picture, you can see there are a lot of stones here. But whenever I'm painting, I like to simplify that and kind of take out some of those rocks in my sketch, because those are a lot of rocks. And the point is to come out here and enjoy painting and not get caught up with counting each stone and making it exact and trying to stress out that way. So I'm going to skip around here and just paint some of those rocks for you, not all of them. I'm going to have fun painting. We're not going to stress out here. And the rocks even go up to the top here by the bank. It's where they start. So I'm going to sketch some of that. And now I'm going to let that dry for a little bit. I think I'm going to move back to where the water is over here and put the shadow. Some of the water's in the sun and some's in the shadow, so we're going to grab some shadow color, which is a cobalt blue and alizarin crimson. We're going to make a nice purple color. And we're going to come in here and we're going to, this is all in shadow here. The whole thing isn't in shadow, so I'm going to skip around. And I'm going to paint all the way in the back here. And it looks about like that. And I could come in with that same color. And I could darken some of these rocks down here while I'm at it. If it's too dark, I gotta lighten it up with some water. Now remember, this will dry pretty light, so I'm not worried about it. Go around here, and the right side of these rocks are all in shadow. I'm just going to keep with some nice rectangular shapes, some good angles. That'll help me. And you might be thinking, oh, the waterfall, it's so hard. it's too difficult to paint, just go ahead and try it. Just get in there and draw some rocks and go ahead and try it. You'll be surprised when you start simplifying things how easy it is. Might want to change my shadow color here and add some more blue or some more purple, some more red, maybe a touch of gray. Get a darker color in here. Seems on the bottom of the rocks here there's a lot of shadow. I'm leaving this white area for the falls, for the water trickling down. We'll come back and do that later. And here's another section here where the water's coming down. So I'm going to skip around there. Just go back and forth. And it looks a little like that. I'm going to let that dry for just a bit. Okay, now that the watercolor is pretty dry, I'm going to go in the back here, weighing the distance by the trees, and I'm going to add some more shapes here. And you can only do this when your painting is completely dry, or else it'll just melt into one big color. Just going to add some greenery coming down here over the bank. There's some greenery. And I think of everything as shapes. I'm not thinking of individual leaves or bushes or anything. I'm thinking of just round shapes. And if you notice, I'm using a smaller brush this time. A smaller round brush. And I just come in here and I'm dropping different colors of green with a lot of blue in here. And I'm letting it mix around. This gives it a little bit of definition and a little bit of color there. And I'm going to let that dry now. I'm going to work my way down and do the bank. I'm going to grab a darker color brown.
Ben, let's go.
Add some color into that bank there. Dirt here. I'm going to skip around, get under that tree. There's some roots sticking out. I can get that later with a nice fine brush. Just adding a little bit of color to that. I'm going to let that dry. Still working my way down. I'm going to grab some of that brown and some Payne's Gray. I'm just going to come in and show where the water touches here. I'm going to let that dry. With watercolors, you always start with the light colors first and you paint on top of that. And that's how watercolors work. So a lot of people get frustrated with watercolors, but if you just start with a nice wash and let it dry and work your way on top of it, it's not as hard as people think. So now I'm going to work on the shadow color here. I see it needs to be a little bit darker. So I'm going to take my alizarin crimson and cobalt blue. Maybe a touch of green, because there's a lot of green showing through on the water. I'm going to come in and I'm going to darken that shadow color here.